Thanks for clicking on Wayne.com for this week's edition of Inside the Zone. Back from the Sunshine State. I don't know if he's got a little more of a tan or what. He probably spent a lot of the time figuring out what their team's going to look like this week.
Yeah, I was actually figuring out penalty minutes. That's what I was doing.
Tallying them all up, get the calculator, get the abacus out there, because there were quite a few. That's where I want to start, because I think that's the lasting image that a lot of Komets fans are going to have of this past week is Friday night against Jacksonville. Things kind of boiled over from Thursday. Just kind of go through what kind of happened in those two games leading up to what we saw on Friday night, which, as we were talking before, you said it's gone viral. It's a viral moment for Shane Albahrani.
It has. No, it all started Thursday night in overtime. There was a hit behind the Jacksonville net or the Komets net, rather, by Jason Binkley that I honestly, it should have been called. It should have been a boarding call, but it certainly wasn't malicious. It was just unfortunate the way Jason had hit him in the angle that he was. So that led to Dejan Mingo going down and taking a run at Brady Shaw. And it was a headshot. Brady Shaw went down. He is, probably going to be out for a little while. There was no call on the ice. The officials looked at it. The league deemed it to be a legal hit, and that's where the issue was. It's that it really shouldn't have been that way. And perhaps everything could have been halted if Dejan Mingo had been suspended for one game. But once you find that out, everything kind of boiled over, because you have to stick up for your teammate. That's it, and you have to do that because if you don't answer like that, you kind of get that reputation of we can be pushed around, and that's what happened.
And if you went through Friday's game, there were a few smaller incidents leading up to the one midway through the second period.
Everything
just a lot of frustration, especially when you play teams back to back. I mean, the Komets are playing 5 and 6 consecutive on the road. 3 games and 3 nights in Florida. I imagine a lot of frustration, and then just familiarity breeds contempt, as they say. And like you mentioned, no real penalty for Mingo, so the Komets felt like they had been shafted to a degree.
Yeah, and you knew that this is the last time you're going to play Jacksonville, last time you're going to see them. So you got to take care of business that night. And it all started in the warm-ups. The teams came together at center ice, right at the red line. There was a lot of posturing, and you were just waiting for it to happen then, but it didn't. So when the game started, you had Clark and you had Stewie dropping the gloves, and so that started it all. And then after that, you had a line brawl. After that, you had 3 fights going on at the same time. And then when that was all settled down, it seemed like everything, it was squashed. It was over. And then we had the incident in the second period with Patrick Munson and Clark and Emerson Clark that turned something really ugly. And really, it really was. Even though, like you said, it's gone viral. It's become a very entertaining video. But yeah, I mean, it was sometimes it depends on where you land on the hockey spectrum. It was a little difficult to watch.
Obviously there are penalties forthcoming from the league. They announced on Saturday that they would be, taking a look at all the video and trying to figure everything out. But when it comes down to the penalties, you're talking about 63 penalty minutes for the Komets that night, 73 penalty minutes for the Icemen, so 136 in total. When the penalties come out on Tuesday from the league, how is this going to affect the Komets? What do you think some of those are going to be, and how do the Komets maybe move forward from this, or maybe it galvanizes?
Well, yeah, you're right. This could be very much a rallying point for this team, because you expect Chase Stewart to be suspended, you suspect Kyle Haas to be suspended, and I think Patrick Munson might even get a game or two. Depending on the health of Dylan Ferguson, we could be looking at bringing in another goaltender. With Haas and Stewart out, Max Gottlieb is a question mark right now, so you're probably looking at just 5 defensemen. And then Sean St. Amant should be back next week, so the Komets should be able to address at least 9 forwards, also depending on Gage Terrell, who was on the IR. So it could be a patchwork lineup come this weekend, just depending on the suspensions. But, the Komets also lost 2 guys to call-ups. Ben Jones and Jermaine Lowen left as well. So, a little bit of a skeleton crew, but they do have enough bodies at least to to at least get 9 forwards out there.
And correct me, Mason Berg is now up too,
right? Mason Berg also was with the team last weekend for that's 2 games in Toledo and the 1 in Indy. So he was only there for 3 games. So yeah, you basically had 3 call-ups right away. So yeah, that doesn't help either. But no, we'll see what the league hands down, and just have to take it from there.
Okay, so when you take a look at this week's schedule, the road trip continues, although you've had a couple days. I think it's going to be 6 days in total to kind of sleep in your own bed and kind of get things right. So it doesn't feel like, it's still on the same continuous road trip.
Yeah, and another thing we did not talk about was the injury to Brett McKenzie. Through all of that madness, Brett McKenzie had his arm cut with a skate. So we don't know what his status is going to be as well. So you're losing, Brady Shaw, who's probably going to be out. Brett McKenzie could be out. So this lineup is going to look very different come Friday night in Indy or in Kalamazoo.
So heading into this Kalamazoo game, obviously there's only so much you can do when guys are going to be suspended. But how do you approach this week if you're the Komets? You finally get back on home ice on Saturday night. It's going to be the first time in 20 days. I don't even know if you guys have practiced at the Coliseum at that point. Like even they even know where the locker room, which side that's on, all that kind of stuff. By the time they get back, that's like 3 weeks out of your home building.
Yeah, it's a little rough. It was a rough schedule, to even go back to the trip we had the 1st of December where you were gone for 2 weeks as well. So, it was a rough schedule, but you also know that you get to spend now a lot of the next month at home because the month of February, even looking at the schedule when it was released, 12 out of the 13 games are all within the division. So this is the month. This is the make or break month for the Fort Wayne Komets. You're still only 4 points back of Toledo, but you've got Indy now 3 points behind you, and you're going to play both of those teams a lot down the stretch. So this month of February is going to be huge. It's not going to start off very good with the lineup, things that are going to be happening with the suspensions and injuries and such. But no, this could be a real galvanizing moment for the Komets.
What do you like about the Komets going forward? And what have you seen in these last 6 games, specifically the 3 games in Florida, that has you thinking, okay, man, this team is primed for a good run? As you mentioned, the importance of the month of February.
Yeah, you get Sean St. Amant back. You also don't know what the status of Brad Morrison, who's another guy who can really skate out there. But the power play has been excellent. Second in the league, first on the road, and especially teams that wins a lot of hockey games for you. But the one interesting thing is that somehow this team is now haven't been able to figure out how to score goals again. Defensively, they've been actually playing very, very well, and that's a good thing. But getting Sean St. Amant is going to be really big. That is really going to bring this lineup back together.
I'm glad that you mentioned special teams because not only is the power play playing well, but the penalty kill as well. They've got 17 consecutive kills out there. So what is it about the special teams unit? I know you said number 1 on the road, almost 27% conversion rate on the road for the power play. What is it that makes the Komets power play so good? And then we'll dive into what makes the penalty kill so good.
Well, you got guys who out there can score. You had Brady Shaw and Sean Silowski.
Been awesome.
Sean Silowski, he may be the top point getter on the power play right now. He was at the top going into that weekend. So, no, Sean Silowski is a big reason. That's really his specialty. And also Brady Shaw. You got 2 guys out there who can score with anybody. Your power play is going to be pretty good.
Penalty kill. Because that can always be a bugaboo, and it's something I think that we see surface in the playoffs where there aren't quite as many penalty kills, so you have to be effective in the penalty kill. What is it that's allowed the penalty kill, and what are the keys to the personnel that Ben Boudreau has working on that shift?
Well, you got 2 really good penalty killers in A.J. Jenks and Anthony Petruzzelli, 2 guys also who any team would take on their penalty kill. So it just comes down to personnel. The Komets sometimes struggled because A.J. wasn't out there, Petruzzelli wasn't out there. He was called up quite a bit. A.J. had some injuries. So now you've got those guys out there who can kill the penalties. So it really just comes down to personnel. It's not so much a strategy, but now we have the penalty killers.
The David Huckalos of the world.
Exactly.
The good defensive forwards that, maybe it doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but what they do is really beneficial.
Yeah, right.
I think
the grinders,
Yeah. When you take a look at guys that really stood out to you this week, Olivier Galipeau had a great week. Drake Rimshaw, whenever he's here, he's pretty good. Sid had 4 points. So who stood out to you this week? Who maybe took a step up and impressed you this past week?
Oh, I think really, honestly, after Friday night, everybody impressed me because everybody stood up for their teammate, and that is big. When you go out there, when you're willing to go out there and put it all on the line to stick up for your teammate, they weren't going to let that hit. Brady Shaw is the team's leading scorer. He's a captain. You know what? You can't let that go. So it's like very, very proud of that team. I mean, they were going to take care of business. They were going to handle it. Of course, your first goal is to get the 2 points. But you also knew that you had to take care of business, and that's what they did.
Okay, so this week's schedule looks like this: Friday at Kalamazoo, Saturday at home versus Tulsa. The only time Tulsa will come here, you beat them out. I think it was 1-0.
Yes.
At their place earlier in the season. And then Sunday at Indianapolis. You're talking about an Indy Fuel team that you got 26 games left on the schedule. You're playing them 7 times. I mean, it's like a quarter of your games.
Yeah.
And these are the two teams right now in third and fourth. And as you mentioned earlier, Indy only, 3 points behind. You've got a game in hand on them. Toledo's got 54 points. You've got 50, so they got 4 points on you. But you've also got 3 games in hand on Toledo.
They have 3 games.
Yeah. So honestly, yes, you want to catch Toledo, but really you want to hold off Indy,
Yeah,
and
right.
you're going to have a big opportunity to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and you're still going to have a chance to catch Toledo. You've got them still quite a bit down the stretch. We got to shake that. 0-7 against Toledo is not right. But again, you still got them, down the stretch, and you're probably going to see them in the playoffs. So that's when the most important thing when it comes to Toledo. But no, this Indy squad is much improved. They're a tough team, and they're a team that has beaten up Toledo all season long. I think they're maybe 6-1 against Toledo, and they made a big trade with Cliff Watson and Ryan Van Stralen from Missouri. Who right now they're in last place, pretty much playing out the string already. So they unloaded those guys, and boy, I tell you what, they were a really good team when we played them last week, and Indy ended up winning it in a shootout, and they were the difference. So Indy is going to be a very tough team down the stretch. You can't discount Wheeling. They're only a few points back, but if I was picking it right now, I would say you got your 4 spots already in the Central, depending on where everybody is going to slot, and it is going to be really tough because you got 3 or 4 really good teams. And again, once the Komets finally get everybody back, it seems like Sean St. Amant was going to be back probably this week, and it looked like this team was finally going to have everybody that they were supposed to have, and then everything happened on Friday. So the team may have taken a step back, but
eventually you'll have all the pieces.
Right.
It's almost better because they're not out with injuries, so you know when these guys are going to be back at least.
Right. And on defense, if you get Max Gottlieb back, which you're hopefully you're going to, you still have 6 defensemen. Gabriel Verpass has turned into a steal for the Fort Wayne Komets back at the blue line. So at least you've got that. You got Will Pechnig as well. So you've got the 6 defensemen. You just hope Brady Shaw's not out for any long time. You hope Brett McKenzie's not out for any length of time, and you hope Sean St. Amant comes back and he's the guy you saw in the first 2 months of the season.
Whenever we had Blake as our guest for many years here on Inside the Zone, and whenever we had a big weekend like this coming up, or something had happened in the week before, he always mentioned how in the first shift or the first period, on a Friday night, he really wanted to see what the team was made of. Is that, knowing that the personnel isn't necessarily going to be there because of the suspensions and some of the injuries you just mentioned, how important is it to see what this team is going to be about this weekend in the first few shifts? Or is that something that you can even glean from that small sample size?
A little bit. That's another thing that has gone bad for the Komets. It's scoring first.
Yeah, early.
They went somewhere in the neighborhood of over 300 minutes without having the lead in any game.
Wow.
But they won 2 of them in shootouts. That's when they got the lead, was in the end of the game, which is the most important thing. But no, when they score first and when they have the lead at the end of the second period, they're unstoppable. So it's getting out and jumping on any team first. So I think that has a lot to do also with confidence. You get that first, you get a couple in there. You're suddenly playing with confidence. Your defense is able to relax, and you can just keep your foot on the gas.
Okay, now this is kind of non-hockey stuff, but it's kind of the stuff that interests me. The trip. What were the logistics of it? Because you get done, and do you jump immediately on the bus, like when you're heading down to Florida? You didn't fly, right?
No, we flew.
You
Yes,
flew?
We flew,
okay.
yeah.
So then how does that, I mean, you got to take a bus, obviously, from Florida Everglades, Estero,
yeah. Fort Myers.
To
Jacksonville.
How hard is it when you're doing plane, trains, and automobiles? I mean, it's almost. I know it's difficult to do it in a sleeper bus, but then you'd have all your stuff there. I was arguing about this with somebody else earlier in the week. I was like, I don't know which would be better. Would it be better to bus it and have all your stuff and kind of know where everything is? Or because if you fly, you got the bus, then another bus, and then blah, 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 blah. So how does it work for you?
Well, the trip went, we played in Toledo the weekend before, so we were there Saturday, Sunday. Monday morning, we got up and drove to Detroit. We flew from Detroit to Fort Myers on Monday morning. So everybody had kind of half an off day, and then we also had an off day on Tuesday.
Had to go north to go south.
Yeah, and then we played Wednesday, and then after Wednesday night's game, we all hopped on the bus, and it was not our regular bus. It wasn't our sleeper bus. It was a coach bus, so 6 hours north to Jacksonville. You roll in.
Florida's such a big state.
Yeah, it was just like Indiana, just like when we used to go to Evansville. It's 6 hours. It's still in the same state, but it's 6 hours. So no, it was, we rolled in there probably about 3:30 a.m. On Thursday morning to play that night. So Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a lot of rest going into that Thursday night game, but you know what? They responded. They got to 2 points. So and then, maybe it was lack of sleep that got everybody grumpy.
I was going to say, yeah, they didn't have any coffee or something like that.
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
I mean, there's no way. I mean, just the way the body recovers, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a difficult ask.
Yes, well, yes, indeed, and that's and Ben Boudreau will tell you that in our pregame interviews he said that this, and it's not just us, it's every team in
Sure.
the league has also said this has been a crazy schedule when it comes to you have to you play a game, then you get on a bus just to go to the next city to play the next day, just like us, we do this twice this year where we play Friday night at home. Now we're an 8 o'clock start, so it means we're going to be getting out of there a bit later. We leave at midnight. We got to take a 5-hour trip to Wheeling to play in Wheeling the next day, and then we come back and play at home on a Sunday. So it's really yeah.
So what for you and for the guys as well? What are some of the tricks to keeping your schedule regular, to getting enough sleep, to having enough energy? I mean, are there some people will go with cat naps. Other people can't sleep on a bus. How do you go about staying fresh? Because I think, the NBA guys have really started talking about, when they look at the schedule, the quality of sleep and the quality of life on the road in the NBA. And, they're getting world-class everything.
Right.
So how do you keep your body fresh, nutrition, sleep? How do you do it?
Yeah, it's a difficult balance. Again, I'm not the one skating, so I'm not the one out there. So,
but still, your clock has to be
over
the place.
It is. No, it's nice when you have the sleeper bus that you are able at least to spread out. It's not the easiest thing to do, but you know what? All of us on that bus have been doing it an awful long time. Not most, shouldn't say most of us, but a lot of us on there have been. So they kind of know how to do it. And again, just when when you eat, you just you have to be just mindful. Making sure you're eating. And actually, it's not so much eating; it's drinking. Dehydration really is the big thing. That is actually my big thing. Is that I can't seem to get enough fluids when you're constantly just on the go.
So are you a water guy, a coconut water guy, a Gatorade guy? I know Guy Dupuis was a Pedialyte guy.
Yeah, and that's a lot of guys do. A lot of guys.
People, they think that's funny, but it's got everything that you need.
Right. No, Gatorade, water. We take frequent gas station stops when we're on the road. So you know what? I'll break down and get that frozen Mountain Dew to try and stay awake. So.
Oh, nice. Frozen Mountain Dew, breakfast of champions.
That's right. Well, so you know what? Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So you live on a lot of coffee as well. No, that's a staple. So we're coffee connoisseurs.
All right, there you go. Coffee, frozen Mountain Dews, it's all good when it comes to big road trips for the Komets. Of course, we're glad to have you guys back and glad to have a home game this coming weekend after what will be in total 7 games consecutively on the road. He's Shane, I'm Glenn, and we'll talk to you next Monday on Inside the Zone.